Sarah knelt beside the sobbing child, her own worn shoes sinking into the playground mulch as rain began to fall around them. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered, sheltering the little girl with her only jacket, the one with the frayed cuffs she couldn't afford to replace on a nanny's salary. Little did Sarah know that this simple act of kindness would completely transform her life within 24 hours, and the man watching them from across the park would soon make a decision that would change everything. If you're touched by stories of unexpected kindness and life-changing moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming true stories that remind us how a single moment of compassion can alter destinies forever. The day had started like any other for Sarah Jenkins. At 26, she was barely making ends meet, juggling 3 part-time jobs while trying to save enough to finish her teaching degree. Her morning nanny position for the Hendersons paid just above minimum wage, but she adored their twins, even if Mrs. Henderson's constant criticism made the job increasingly unbearable. That afternoon, Sarah had taken her lunch break at Westfield Park, seeking a moment of peace before heading to her evening waitressing shift. The sky had darkened with approaching rain, emptying the usually bustling playground except for a few hurried parents gathering their children. That's when she noticed the little girl, no more than 5 years old, huddled alone beneath the slide, tears streaming down her face. Sarah approached cautiously. "Hi there. Are you okay?" The child only sobbed harder, her small body trembling. "I'm Sarah. What's your name?" "Emma," the girl hiccuped between sobs. "Where's your mommy or daddy, Emma?" Sarah asked gently, scanning the park for any frantic adults. "I don't know," Emma whispered. "Nanny Greta was on her phone, and I wanted to see the ducks, and now I can't find her." Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks as thunder rumbled overhead. Sarah's heart clenched. She'd been lost once as a child and still remembered the terror. Without hesitation, she slipped off her jacket, the only decent one she owned, and wrapped it around Emma's shoulders as rain began to fall. "I'm scared of storms," Emma confessed, her voice tiny. "You know what my grandma used to tell me?" Sarah said, settling beside Emma under the slide. "She said thunder is just the angels bowling in heaven." She mimicked a bowling motion that coaxed a small smile from Emma. "And the lightning? That's when they get a strike." For the next 20 minutes, Sarah distracted Emma with stories and games, all while keeping an eye out for park security or Emma's caregiver. She'd be late for her waitressing job, probably lose it, but she couldn't leave this child alone. What Sarah didn't notice was the tall man watching them from beneath a black umbrella near the park entrance, his expression unreadable as he spoke urgently into his phone. When park security finally arrived with a frantic, well-dressed woman Sarah assumed was Nanny Greta, Emma clung to Sarah's hand. "Can Sarah come with us? Please?" The security officer looked questioningly at Sarah, who shook her head. "I have to go to work, sweetie. But you're safe now." Emma reluctantly released her hand, and Sarah hurried away in the rain, her thin blouse already soaked without her jacket, which she'd insisted Emma keep. She never made it to her waitressing job that evening, her manager fired her by text before she even arrived. That night, Sarah returned to her tiny studio apartment, jobless and exhausted. The Hendersons had also let her go that morning after Mrs. Henderson accused her of breaking an expensive vase, something Sarah hadn't done. With rent due in a week and no savings, panic clawed at her chest as she collapsed onto her second-hand sofa. Meanwhile, across town in a penthouse overlooking the city, Daniel Foster, CEO of Foster Innovations and one of the country's youngest billionaires, listened intently as his daughter Emma recounted her adventure for the 3rd time. "And then Sarah told me about the angels bowling, Daddy. She wasn't scared at all, and she gave me her jacket even though she got all wet." Daniel's jaw tightened as he thought about how his daughter's nanny had lost track of Emma while texting her boyfriend. She'd already been dismissed, but his anger remained. If not for this stranger, this Sarah, who knew what could have happened to his daughter? "What happened to your Sarah after I came home?" he asked Emma. Emma's face fell. "She had to go to work. She looked sad. Daddy. Can we find her? I still have her jacket. Daniel studied the worn jacket hanging on Emma's bedpost. It was a far cry from the designer clothes his daughter wore, but Emma had refused to part with it. We'll try, Princess, he promised, though he had little to go on, just a first name and his security team's brief description of a young woman with kind eyes and a gentle manner. What Daniel didn't know was that his head of security had already run the park's surveillance footage through the company's facial recognition software. By morning, he had a name, Sarah Jenkins. The next day, Sarah woke to pounding on her door. Her landlord, Mr. Gaines, stood there with an eviction notice. I'm sorry, Sarah, but you're 3 months behind. I've been patient, but I can't wait anymore. Please, Mr. Gaines. I just need a little more time. I'll find another job today, I promise. The desperation in her voice was palpable. You have until Friday, he said, not unkindly. Then I need you out. Sarah spent the day applying for jobs, any jobs, but returned home empty-handed and defeated. As she approached her apartment building, she noticed a sleek black car parked outside, completely out of place in her neighborhood. A driver in a suit stood beside it, scanning the street. When he spotted Sarah, he straightened. Ms. Jenkins? Sarah froze, instantly wary. Who's asking? My employer would like to speak with you. He gestured to the car's tinted back window, which lowered to reveal a familiar little face. Sarah. Emma squealed, waving excitedly. Confused, Sarah approached as the opposite door opened and a man stepped out, tall, impeccably dressed, with Emma's same warm brown eyes. Ms. Jenkins, he said, extending his hand. I'm Daniel Foster, Emma's father. I believe we have you to thank for helping my daughter yesterday. Sarah's mind raced. Foster, as in Foster Innovations? The technology company valued at billions? I just did what anyone would do, she stammered. Not according to Emma, Daniel replied. And not according to the park security footage. You stayed with her for nearly half an hour, missing your own job to make sure she was safe. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. How did you find me? A flicker of something, embarrassment, perhaps, crossed Daniel's face. I have resources. I hope you'll forgive the intrusion, but Emma insisted on returning your jacket personally. Emma bounced out of the car, clutching Sarah's worn jacket. I kept it safe. Daddy said we should wash it first, but I said no because then it wouldn't smell like you anymore. Sarah knelt to accept the jacket, touched by Emma's words. That was very thoughtful, Emma. Thank you for bringing it back. Actually, Daniel interjected, returning the jacket isn't the only reason we're here. Emma hasn't stopped talking about you, and, well, we recently found ourselves in need of a new nanny. Sarah blinked in surprise. You want me to be Emma's nanny? If you're interested. The position includes a substantial salary, health benefits, and accommodation in our guest suite. He named a figure that made Sarah's knees weak, more than triple what she'd been making at all 3 jobs combined. But you don't know anything about me, Sarah protested. I could be anyone. Daniel's expression softened. I know enough. I know you put my daughter's needs above your own without hesitation. I know you lost your job because of it. And I know Emma trusts you, which says more about your character than any resume could. Emma tugged at Sarah's hand. Please say yes. We have a pool and everything. Sarah looked between them, overwhelmed. Was this really happening? I'd need to think about it. Of course, Daniel nodded. Though I should mention the position is available immediately, with accommodations ready tonight if needed. Sarah thought about her empty apartment, the eviction notice, her dwindling bank account. Tonight would actually be perfect, she admitted. 6 months later, Sarah's life was unrecognizable. Living in the foster household, she'd not only found security but also a sense of belonging. Emma flourished under her care, and Sarah had been able to enroll in online courses to finish her teaching degree, fully funded by Daniel as part of her employment package. What Sarah hadn't expected was how Daniel himself would change. The stern, serious businessman she'd first met gradually revealed himself to be a devoted father still healing from his wife's death 3 years earlier. He began joining them for movie nights and weekend outings, his rare smile appearing more frequently. One evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Daniel found Sarah on the terrace, grading papers for her online course. "You've brought life back into this home," he said quietly, joining her at the table. "Before you came, it was just a place where Emma and I slept. Now it feels like a home again." Sarah looked up, surprised by his candor. "Emma makes it easy. She's an amazing child." "She is," Daniel agreed. "But it's more than that. You see her, really see her. Not as the daughter of Daniel Foster, CEO, but just as Emma." "That's who she is," Sarah said simply. Daniel studied her for a long moment. "Would you consider staying? Not just as Emma's nanny, but permanently?" Sarah's heart skipped. "What exactly are you asking, Daniel?" "I'm asking if you might consider being part of our family. Emma adores you. And I." He paused, suddenly uncertain. "I've found myself thinking about you in ways that go beyond employer and employee." Sarah set down her pen. "I care about Emma more than I can say. And you." She met his gaze steadily. "You've become important to me too." Daniel reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "Then stay. Not in the guest suite, but here, with us. We can figure out the details together." 1 year later, Sarah stood in the same park where she'd first met Emma, watching as her now stepdaughter chased butterflies across the lawn. Daniel's arm wrapped around her waist, his wedding band catching the sunlight. "Hard to believe it all started right here," he murmured against her hair. Sarah leaned into him, her hand resting on her slightly rounded belly where their second child grew. "With a thunderstorm and angels bowling. And a jacket," Daniel added with a smile. "Don't forget the jacket." Sarah laughed. "I framed it, remember? Our first family heirloom." As they watched Emma play, Sarah reflected on how a single moment of kindness had changed everything. She'd gone from struggling to survive to helping build a family filled with love. Not because she'd met a wealthy man, though Daniel's resources had certainly removed obstacles, but because when faced with a child in need, she'd chosen compassion without expectation of reward. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. Sarah smiled up at him. "Just that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change lives in ways we never imagine. I was just trying to comfort a scared little girl. And instead, you saved all of us," Daniel replied softly. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the park, the Foster family walked hand in hand toward home. A living testament to how compassion, even in our darkest moments, can lead to unexpected joy. Remember, kindness costs nothing but can be worth everything. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more inspiring content that reminds us of the power of human connection. Sometimes the most meaningful relationships begin in the most unexpected ways, with the simplest acts of compassion.